issue in terms of keeping it visible and keeping it active for the future. So the first 2 editions will only be the first 2 pilot projects, pilot activities. And this is the teaser of the new MOOC that we have been developing. And it should be, we tried it several times. It should work. Yes.
Each individual is unique. Embracing diversity is essential for promoting creativity and innovation in academic, social, and corporate environments. We have to ask ourselves what we should do to create conditions favorable for the development of all individuals. Because of prejudice or discrimination, some people are given fewer opportunities in life, and they have to put more effort into making people understand their value and creativity. In this book, we will focus on prejudice and discrimination that affect women and girls and lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people. This course is aimed at understanding what the roots of biases and stereotypes are, what practical solutions we can use to promote the inclusion of women and LGBT people in the academic, social, and corporate environment. Why gender and sexual diversity drives innovation and generates new energy. In particular, we will consider the effects of discouragement and self-exclusion on female talent in science, technology, engineering, and math, known as STEMs, which has big repercussions in the working world. This book consists of videos, quizzes, and activities. All these tools will help you develop knowledge and competence about the biological sex, gender identity, and sexual orientation. We will share actions useful to motivate girls to study STEMs. Our course will report some cases of businesses that promoted the gender and LGBT inclusion to create a fertile, authentic work environment for everyone. Finally, this course presents an analytical geography about gender and sexuality. Discover the rich dimensions of diversity that make up each individual and the opportunities you have to work for it. Follow our Embracing Diversity.
Oh, and this next one.
Maybe you can repeat the controversial song.
No, you think I don't know. You needed to. Okay. And as I said, this will be launched October 22nd, and after that, there will be another online session in January, but my colleagues are already thinking about the sustainability. So as I mentioned before, it will stay on our platform as long as it attracts interest, and that it will be monitored technically and academically by the professor involved. But at the same time, they're also planning dissemination of the results and the activities. It will definitely be on the YouTube, YouTube channel, and as well it will be presented into different conferences and meetings about online learning education. They're already planning to do that into the next national meeting of the e-learning associations and any other occasion that will be either national or international where these topics will be arise. So they're already thinking about the future as well. Thank you. That's everything from my side. Unless you have any question. Is there any question I may be able to answer?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'd like to ask a question. What is the target public for this
They explained me that at the very beginning they are targeting the students who are already into STEM sciences to understand how high is the assumption or the prejudice that women in STEM are not as successful as men, and to try to destroy this barrier. So the first target will be students, but at least in the pilot projects. But technically, it's open to everyone. So everyone who is at least curious to know a little bit more about that will be able to register and to complete the MOOC. So their analysis will be focusing on students at the moment, but technically, it's open to everyone. So there.
I think high school teachers in these disciplines would definitely part of the life.
Yeah, they mentioned that they will marketing that to high school in the next step as well, yes, to attract more female students into the STEM. So they told me that their procedure will be to check first within our campuses which kind of assumptions and prejudices the students have in mind, to start working on that, and then they could promote it to younger students working already on the assumptions that they have collected and try to destroy, I would say.
And then, is there any... Thank you. Is there any intention to translate this in various languages to make it more directly accessible in the various countries?
I don't know. I know for sure that this is in English, and that subtitles in English and in Italian at the moment are available. They haven't mentioned any other language, but I can check with them if there's any plan to have it in different language versions.
Is it me? Yeah. Okay. Sorry. No, just a comment. I think this is quite a timely addition to our, so to speak, library. We heard the comments, in the recent days from an Italian professor about suitability of physics for women, and we all thank Nobel Committee for being of different opinion, and so I think you did a good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Francesca, very much. I'm wondering about the ECTS. I mean, you mentioned that it is at the university level at the present time, although it should, of course, be reused for other purposes also. But how many ECTS is the intention for? Do you know that? No,
not yet. They're working on that. They told me that at least for the first release, the certificate will just be a certificate of attendance, but no ECTS yet. But they are trying to understand with the professor how much it could be worth in terms of credits to make it an implementation for the future and be able to award a ECTS certificate.
Okay, and then when that is done, is the intention that the participating universities should be giving that ECTS, or is it the intention that there should be one partner who would be handing out the ECTS?
They haven't told me yet, so I don't know, but I can check for you.
Yeah, the second issue coming up there is, of course, related to the payment. I mean, if there is an ECTS which is given, is there then going to be a tuition fee, or will that be?
Usually not. That's our policy. Usually, even with the MOOCs that we have that release ECTS, the attendance is free. So there's no planning for additional fees at the moment, and no even discussion around fees at the moment for this model.
Yeah, I think that's one of the issues that has to be discussed in the future. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Anything? Okay. Thank you then. If there's no other question, thank you very much.
Just a small question related to this. It's obvious that this MOOC, once it has been delivered or when it's ready, it will also be available on the T.I.M.E Association webpage.
So thank you very much, Francesca Fogal, for your presentation. Between we are connecting with Maurizio Ciani, which is a professor of physics at Politecnico di Milano and coordinator of the Highlight Misconception Physics project. And just would like also to welcome Professor Anne that came and arrived. It's been a long time, actually. It's a pleasure to see you back here, and I hope that we're going to have the day to talk together. Thank you.
Hi.
Hello, Maurizio.
I can see you.
Hi.
Bye.
Good to see you. If you can start, introduce yourself and go ahead.
It's a bit dark for me, but it's okay for you?
It's a bit dark, but everything is fine. From outside, you look gorgeous. Yes, perfect.
Yes.
Okay. So I will be the second or the first one? So wait. Okay. Perfect. Okay. I share my video for the presentation. Tell me if it's okay, like the test. So. I will share the video, and you can see the presentation? Okay. Thanks for this opportunity. I'm really afraid to not be there, but as Ginel knows, I'm also the rector's delegate. I've got some institutional appointment just today and tomorrow. But anyway, I'm a physics researcher, I'm a physics teacher, and I'm the head of the experimental teaching lab ST2. The students in the passage from the high school to the university can experiment some gaps or some misconception during their path. So I will not speak in this presentation about how to bridge the gaps, but I point about to highlight the misconceptions and make students happy, for sure, and I will not speak about how to enhance learning in the academic path. So, taking the word bridge, to bridge the gaps and to bridge misconceptions, I think how to bridge. If we want to realize a bridge, in the picture you can see the Jade Belt Bridge in Beijing, China. You need two main ingredients. The first one is not improvise. You must design your project. And the second step, and you are not alone. You need a team. You must build a team and coordinate a team. But in this case, we are not speaking about a bridge like in the picture. We are talking about learning. And learning happens not in China, everywhere. So, what are the main three rules of learning? The first one is learning is an experience, not a download. So we must involve the students in the learning approach because they must be engaged in the experience. The second one is learning happens everywhere and every time. So we must open our fantasy evaluating what may be the best way to reach the learning goals. And the third is learning takes care of materials and methods that are different. We must choose the appropriate combination in order to make learning achievements more effective. So we are able to start and design our project. And to do this, we will follow the 5W1H rule. That means where, why, when, who, what, and mainly in this presentation, how. We have some boundary conditions and we have got some implications. We must highlight misconceptions because they can bring a high teacher's workload to bridge them. At the university we have a high number of students, so we need a pedagogical innovation. Also, we have in the classroom a limited amount of time, and so we need the adoption of innovative technology. To do so, we have chosen a technology-enhanced learning approach. What does it mean? Here start the T.I.M.E project. The T.I.M.E project is relative to what is the target? Freshman students enrolled for engineering. What are the topics? The basic knowledge of classical physics. That means mechanics, thermodynamics, and electromagnetism. And the goal is also the title of the project, to highlight misconceptions in physics. We are not alone. We are a team. We have got partners. Myself and the Politecnico di Milano is the coordinator of this project, but we are talking about learning. We need a pedagogic support. In this case, from the Università degli Studi di Trento, from Italy. And then we will have several physics courses. From Politecnico in Italy, from Doshisha University in Japan, and from Bauman University in Russia. What are the aims of this project? Well, first of all, we must choose courses and build quizzes. This is just realized, and I will speak about them in the next slides. Now we are at the point to deliver quizzes and to collecting data. So I will speak brief of this aim, but I will speak about this part maybe next year at the next General Assembly appointment. Third, to analyze data and identify misconceptions. That is the main goal. And to record a trial video to overcome a misconception. All the T.I.M.E project has an open access approach. That means that this presentation, all the instructions, all the data, all the analysis, the results, and all the deliverables and the articles will be present on this portal on ResearchGate. So, starting with the first part, choose courses. We are 3 university partners, and for each course involved, we have identified the number of the parallel sections, the teacher involved that must be engaged in the project, the study course, the term of the course, and the number of students. Then, for each course, we have identified what are the topics covered in the course that are not the same about physics. This is just an example. So at the end, we have identified 16 courses in 2 semesters for more than 2,000 students to be tested. Then we have built the quizzes for all the university. The quiz is composed by 12 multiple choice questions, 90 seconds for each question, and 1 correct answer out of 4 alternatives. But the quiz is the same for all courses. Due to this fact, that due to the number of the courses, the test and the students, we have chosen to use Socrative as portal to erodate online quiz in real time. In the course time, we've got the beginning and the end of the course, and the initial quiz will be the same, and is composed by 4 questions of mechanics, 4 of thermodynamics, and 4 of electromagnetism. But as you can see in the table, the topics are different for each course. So, like the example, the final quiz will be different and calibrated for each course. In the example of the table of the slide, the thermodynamics quiz will be deleted and substituted by 2 + 2 quiz of mechanics and electromagnetism that are topics of this course. So, we have chosen the courses, we have built the quizzes. Now, in this time, we are able and we are delivering the quizzes. We have shared a quiz with all the partners and with the pedagogic support of the Università degli Studi di Trento. And this is just an example of this type of quiz, written in English. But we must erodate this quiz to the freshman students. So we have translated each quiz in the local language of each university partners. That means in Italian for my university, in Japan for the Doshisha University, and in Russian for the Bauman University. Okay, we are now delivering the quiz at the end, at the end of the second semester. Also, if it is out of the time project, we will able to collect the data that are big data, because we've got a so great amount during the time project of initial quiz results. We will have also a great amount of data about the final quiz results in order to compare what is the transition, if the misconception is also present or not. But we have got also data from the high school. For example, the kind of high school, the school degree of each student, and we will have data about the academic path of the students, like, for example, the assessment in the physics exams. So, what about the next steps that are not now at this time, but in the next month? We need, at the end, to analyze this big data in order to identify misconceptions, choose one misconception in order to record a trial video. This video will be only an example of what we can do at the end of this analysis. So, at the end of this presentation, something about our outlook for the future. We are involved like lab, like experimental teaching lab, in how to bridge the gap, how to highlight misconceptions, in particular in the T.I.M.E project, and how to enhance learning in the academic path. Thanks to the T.I.M.E project, we have chosen to design our learning project, choose and coordinate the team, because it's the team that makes the difference. The aims are the ones that I have presented in the previous slides, but what for the future? We want to, at the end, record other videos, in particular regarding the main topics of mechanics, thermodynamics, and electromagnetism of the classical physics, but also, if the project is realistic and can give the possibility to obtain some results also in other disciplines like math, chemistry, and electronics. And due to the fact that this is part of a wider project, we want to hope and go forward also in a Europe vision, maybe in a Horizon Act 2020 or in a Horizon Europe programs in the future with these and other partners that going to be involved. Thank you so much. Thank you for your attention and enjoy with physics.
Hello, Gerard Degré from the University of Brussels. I wanted to know, where are you in the project at this moment? Are you, so you already, I understand you already designed the quizzes, but did you already...
I'm not hearing nothing. It doesn't sound well. Can you translate or repeat the question?
Yes, I'm going to repeat the question for you later on.
Yeah. Thank you.
So I wanted to know where you are in the process, whether, I mean, I understand the quizzes are designed, but were they already submitted to the students, the initial quiz, or the final quiz?
Okay, so the question is from Professor Degré, President of T.I.M.E, ULB Brussels, and he would like to know at which stage you are in the project, because what the quiz that you sent, it's the initial quiz or the final quiz that you
Okay.
sent to students?
So we are more or less, let me choose the pointer. We have just choose courses, build quizzes, and deliver the quizzes in the initial part. More or less we have finished this part because each course starts more or less in September, October. For my university and for the Bauman University, this is the first semester, and this month is the second semester for the Shisha. But we have more or less concluded this part. The final quiz will be erogated at the end of the course, at the end of the semester. That means in more or less February. But this is within the T.I.M.E project. But we want to go forward the T.I.M.E project, and we are just involved, engaged other courses for the second semester in order to enlarge the data collected. So at the end of the T.I.M.E project, I will be able to show you what is the results of this part, comparing the initial with the final for the different courses involved. It sounds well, my answer? Okay.
Torsten Fransen, KTH. I've got two questions. First of all, is there a possibility for other university partners, T.I.M.E members, to get involved already now and test the system?
So the question is from Professor Fransen, KTH Sweden, and he's asking about the possibility of other institutions on T.I.M.E network to be joined the project or to access the tests.
It is not clear for me. This test or in the future? In this time or in the future?
Within this project here, I mean, yeah.
So I've got a wide vision. That means that within the T.I.M.E project, we have selected the courses. We will arrive to the end with these courses because we have engaged the teacher of these courses. But for sure, like lab, we go ahead, and for sure I am happy to enlarge the partners and the group involved also in other disciplines, because what I have seen and what I know is that is not the main critical part is not the topic of the quiz. I know physics. The problem is not to build the quiz. The problem is about design the quiz and coordinate the team. So if some other time partner is interested in this project, but also in other disciplines, I'm sure happy, and I'm here to enlarge it.
Okay, let's encourage the time members to get involved if they would like. That would be a great extension. And then my second question is related to this Socrates or whatever software that you mentioned here. Could you go back a few slides?
He was asking about the software, the Socrates. Maybe
Yeah.
you could go a couple slides backwards.
How it works?
Yes.
There are several portals. I've got a list of free portals with which we can deliver quiz. What I need is the delivering of the quiz in real time, online, because I'm able to compare the result also in the classroom. I use it also for other projects like peer learning, for example. And the portal must be able to collect a particular number of data in the same time. That means each class is more or less composed by 100, 200 students. And the portal must be able to collect the same data in the same time. Not all the free portals are able. And to provide the question with a teacher timing, not only with the student timing. I must select when change the quiz. It's not an exercise homemade for the students. Must be erogated online. So Socrates, at my knowledge, is the best way to deliver the quizzes from this point of view.
Okay, good. We can discuss that offline later on. That's very, very interesting, I think, related to also if you have got possibilities of having alternative answers and those kind of things. But let's take that offline. Thank you.
So Professor Wilson would like to talk to you later offline about this subject of Socrates.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yeah. You will have my mail, because at the end of the presentation I must go for the institution appointed for the rector. But you can contact me every time you want. You've got my mail, my contacts, and so on.
So you're not going to participate in the coffee break?
Are you going to the coffee break? I'm afraid you're not going to.
After me, you've got a coffee break?
Yes.
Oh, I can stay online. Yeah. Perfect.
Any further questions? No, I think we do not have any other questions. So if you'd like to say a final remark, the floor is open to you.
Marcelo, I just
No,
have no, it's not a question. It's just a comment. I look forward to seeing the results of the research at the next General Assembly.
Oh, okay, the comment was that we'd like to see the final results of the research next year at the GA, as a General Assembly, next year.
Okay, where?
Paris.
I will be there for sure.
Yes, it's closer.
Yeah. But I mean, I've got some preliminary results also before next year, because I don't want to expect the conclusion of the 2 semesters. I want to have 2 semesters to enlarge the data and the analysis, because the students that enter in the second semester is not the same of the freshmen. but I've got some results also at the end of the first semester, and I will share with you and with the ResearchGate portal all the data and all the results. So the next year I will have a wider results and wider analysis, for sure.
So thank you very much, Maurizio.
Thank you.
Now I would like just to...
Enjoy. Bye.
So these two projects were coordinated by Politecnico di Milano, but I just have one remark. As you can see, indeed, Politecnico di Milano was coordinator of these two projects, but it involved some universities as Bauman, as Doshisha, as TU Berlin, as Université Libre de Bruxelles. So it's just a remark because I will come back to that later regarding the time call-off project, but it's definitely, open and a global large part of the T.I.M.E members. As I told you before, T.I.M.E is associate members in 4 Erasmus Plus projects. And we decided that it was actually an opportunity that we could have a presentation of this Erasmus Plus project to put forward also the activities where T.I.M.E is associate member. And we have 2 coordinators actually that attend the General Assembly. And I would like to ask actually to Professor Isabelle Ortiz and also to Professor Frédéric Dorel, who is also coordinator of a T.I.M.E project, the job networking session that you have heard about last year. The 2 projects are actually quite linked and connected, so that's why we decided to have a co-presentation. So Frédéric Dorel and Isabelle Ortiz, the floor is now yours. This is a new presentation. Yes. Is that okay? Okay. You have. Okay. Brazil, that's the first one. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, it's a bit, well, we've been changing the agenda because I made a terrible decision for this T.I.M.E conference. I made the decision to be rather discreet, as you can see. And I had my own presentation, and later on, Isabelle had her own presentation as well. And you will understand that my project, our project, GNS, is now partly embedded in the TAVI project led by Isabelle Ortiz. So we made the decision to have a joint presentation so that you will be hearing me less and you will be hearing Isabelle more, which is a great advantage for the whole company. Let me clap. Yes.
Okay. So, thank you very much. I'm going to present you TAVI. This is a strategic partnership project that it has been approved in July. I would like to say that we have been working together for more than 1 year preparing the proposal. And there has been many people involved and helping us to launch it. For example, Torsten. Yes. So the name of the project is Tool for Enhancing and Assessing the Value of International Experience for Engineers. What is behind the project? All the universities, we encourage our students to move abroad because we really believe that their competences are being strengthened doing this kind of experience. But we never measure what is happening there, which are the competences that are being strengthened during these mobilities, that they are bigger every year. So we decided to begin to measure and to think what is happening there to improve our strategies in the university as well. So this is what is behind the project. I don't know how to move on. Yes. No.
I guess it's PDF.
It's PDF, yes. Okay. So next slide. So these are the partners that we are in the project. Is UPM, we are leading the project, but we have KTH, we call École Centrale de Nantes, Unitrento, and Budapest with us. We are 5 partners in 5 different countries. We have also in the project other stakeholders. If you can go on, yes? Other stakeholders, we have 9 different companies or organizations working with us. We have T.I.M.E network, but we have also Siemens, AENA, Accenture. French embassy in Spain is also interested on working with us. The Saul system, this Confi Industria in Trento. We have also one student association in KTH involved in the project, and Synergizer, another company. So these are the partners that are also behind the proposal. And these are the objectives that we propose to achieve with this project. Develop internationalization strategies and tools for enhancing and assessing global competence for engineer students and alumni, promoting embedded mobility and enforce their quality and strength, employability through cooperation across national and organizational borders. This is the goal that we propose. To achieve it, we have specific objectives that are 4. These objectives are linked with the intellectual outputs that you will see later. First of all is to identify the competences that engineers need today to work in this global world. And we are going to do that with companies. Companies say that it's true that engineers need technical knowledge, but they need more than that. And we will define these competences together with them. Then we will develop a toolkit to measure these competences. And then we will also develop innovative and effective teaching and training strategies. We want also this project to make us think how to renew higher education institutions. And then we want to develop strategies and forms for promoting employability. And this is linked with a Frederic Dorel project as well. This is part of the things that we were already doing together. So if you go to the next one, please. Yes? No. Here are the 4 intellectual outcomes. Here you have the institutions that they are leading the different intellectual outputs. Trento will lead the first one. It's a framework for global competence of engineers. The toolkit for assessing competences will be led by UPM. A guidebook, ways of enhancing intercultural competence building at higher education institution will be led by KTH. And the guidebook, how to improve employability, will be led by Central Nantes. And, next one, please. And here you have the methodology that has been proposed. These are the target groups. We have students, alumni, staff, committee management boards in the universities as well. And we want to do focus group interviews, surveys, and rubrics to develop the project to achieve the results. Yes, and the next one. This is the project management plan. Here you have a few figures around the project. It will be done during the next 36 months. The budget that has been approved is 429, well, nearly 413,000 euros. And we have the kickoff meeting in Madrid next week. We have our project management plan that will be approved with the risk, quality, communication management for the project. And we have also scheduled multiplayer events, and we want the results to be disseminated. So during the project, we will invite you to participate in our focus group, interview, surveys, or anything. So if you are interested, we will be more than happy to have you participating in the project with us. Here is the intellectual output, number 4. A part of this is the job networking sessions that Frederick is organizing in different countries, and he's going to explain it. Thank you.
Thank you, Isabel. We made the decision to embed this presentation into Isabel's presentation because, first of all, you know about the GNS. We've been talking about that. Well, I've been speaking about that for years to you now. Last year in Lisbon and in Darmstadt, more recently in Brussels before. And we are really improving and getting more and more impact with companies in Milano in last May, and in Barcelona in a couple of weeks. It's brewing, thanks to Lucas, thanks to Juan Jesus, thanks to Neus Consul. We are improving this program, this initiative. So you understood that our main concern, one of our main concerns, is to get closer to companies, because we really get the feeling that within the T.I.M.E network, we've been extremely efficient over the last 30 years in terms of networking together among higher education institutions. But we need more and more, I guess, to have companies, to have industrial companies in the background, and not only in the background, but also in the foreground, and having closer relationship with these people, because actually they are after double degree people. They want to recruit them, but they don't really know that we produce these people. So it's good to put them in presence and to have the double degree students on the one hand and the alumni, the double degree alumni, together with companies on the other hand. And this is what we do with the GNS. So part of the program, which is the intellectual output number 4, we have the GNS, but not only the GNS, of course, all the job fairs, all the forums that we all organize here and there can provide us with a lot of information that we can use within the TAVI program in order to build that famous tools that Isabel told us about, tools that can be universally shared by alumni, students, institutions like ours, and companies. And if we have a common ground, we can naturally work together. And for us, in our view, this could be a very fruitful next step for the T.I.M.E network. Could we have more? So this is what we did and what we'll be doing this year. We had it in Milan at the end of May, and we'll have it in Barcelona in October. So in Milan, we had several companies, about 14 companies. We had quite few big companies. And for the first time ever, we started last year, we were really successful. I guess you saw on LinkedIn, on YouTube, there were a few things, a film, there were plenty of things. The press was there, and it was good news for companies, and they were staring at us. We'll be looking for people with a double competence, with a double language, with adaptability for years. We've been recruiting them, but by chance. But now we know that we can ask the T.I.M.E network, because these people come from the T.I.M.E network. So it was very successful in Milan, and we have good news from Barcelona. It's booming now. We'll be having about 60 people and about 15 companies. It's not enormous, but we don't need enormous thing. We really work on the idea of a club of top-level double degree people and top-level recruiters, top-level companies, and finding a way together, learning from each other, finding a common language, and eventually having recruitment. We have very small figures. Since May, when we had Milan JNS, we had 5 recruitments among our double degree students. It's almost nothing, of course, but it's 5 recruitments with the T.I.M.E idea, with the T.I.M.E label, I would say. And companies, the information is circulating. One of the companies that was in Milano made the decision to join us in Barcelona because they were enthusiastic about that idea. So in Barcelona, we have these people. Of course, we are supported by La UPC in Barcelona, just the way we were supported by Milano in Italy, with the French institutions, the embassy, the consulate, the chambers of commerce. It's getting bigger and bigger. I think we are really improving now. Next, please. So this is the poster of what we had in Milano, for instance, and the companies we had in Milano. Okay, Auchan, Biomérieux, BNP Paribas, Crédit Agricole. So you see, we have local companies and French companies or European companies. These people are recruited in Milano by companies who work on both sides of the Alps or totally elsewhere, but they understand that our double degree students, wherever they are, can give an evidence of their adaptability. So a few pictures. Look how this student from École Centrale de Nantes looks sexy in the eyes of the recruiters. Next, please. Look at that. This one is Centrale Supélec. Wow, wow, wow. Right? Again. This young lady is Centrale Lyon. Look at the Auchan people. Alcampo. Okay? And this one, I don't know, Marseille. Let's put it Marseille. And these people are very, very interesting. Okay? All right? Okay. Thank you very much. It's part of the program, and now Isabelle will be finishing off. Thank you very much.
Well, just to finish the presentation, if you go to the next one, we have only 2 slides. Just to say that we will keep you informed, that we would like you to get involved in the activities that we will be launching together during the next 3 years. I would like to thank the partners because the process to prepare the proposal has been a challenge itself, because we have been building team, are working together and learning from each other. So we will keep you informed, and thank you for listening. And if you have any questions, we are here to answer it.
As any more questions from first of all, thank you for this excellent presentation. I'm really glad, and I told you many times that the T.I.M.E Association could be partner of the T.I.M.E project, and I hope that more members also could contribute to the result, to the dissemination of the T.I.M.E. Anyway, we will come back to you to give you more insight about this project. Regarding also the job networking session, there's been a few indeed sessions that has been organized by the T.I.M.E partners, the Spanish partners, the Italian partners, the French partners. I was actually attending the last edition. Indeed, I can confirm what Frédéric Dorel said. It's been a very big success, and it's true that the companies, indeed, what Frédéric said, they do not know that the students are, at the end they employ have a double degree, but this is a kind of competency at the end they research. So there is actually a huge work to make sure that companies are aware that they are recruiting specifically double degree students, and specifically also from the T.I.M.E network. So I really encourage this kind of collaborations that could enhance actually the link between the T.I.M.E academic partners and the companies. If there are any questions, of course, the floor is yours. Are there any comments or anything that you would like to know more? Yes.
Thank you very much, Marcelo Brunetto from the USP. First of all, congratulations for the speeches. It's more a curiosity. Since you are working on these subjects, assessment and competences, it might be other activities like this one. Are you aware of these? Do you intend to have a kind of survey in order to identify other actions from people in T.I.M.E network, working also more or less in that direction, because it might be interesting to be at least aware of what is going on. It's more a curiosity, as I said.
Yes, we did a previous research to know what was going on, and we have in the proposal we presented an annex with all the projects that are running with initiatives linked with how to measure competences. But we didn't find anything like this. But if you are interested, it's like 4 or 5 pages with all the books, documents, and projects that they are linked with this topic. But they are not the same. We did that, yes. And if you are interested, I will share it with you. Yes? Yeah. Yeah. What we want to highlight here is the competences in the international context. What happens during the mobility, and is different itself. But measuring competences, I agree with you that there are many things that they have been done. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Just a final word. I'd like to, Frédéric, can you remind the next job networking session in Barcelona, the dates specifically? Yeah.
It will be, or maybe Lucas or Juan Jesus, you want to have a word about that. It will be taking place at La UPC on October the 15th. The word has been running on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Twitter, in our alumni networks. And there's still room for people who feel like joining us, including, of course, all the partners, because it's not only La UPC, it's all the Spanish partners, and I would say all the T.I.M.E partners, because we have, at the core of the system, we have the École Centrale, but actually all the T.I.M.E partners represented by the T.I.M.E students at La UPC are welcome. So we will be having people from Belgium, from Denmark, from all over the T.I.M.E network itself, okay? Because actually these people represent the same type of competencies, and companies don't really care if the students come from France or from Catalonia or from Italy. They care about the idea that they can do anything because they have survived international mobility. Well, this is what we sell. We sell adaptability. And companies like buying that. So meet us in Barcelona on October the 15th.
Sorry?
Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Is this okay? The question?
I would have.
Yes.
This one is working fine. I would have a comment. Here, if I understand correctly, the goal of the project is to quantify in some way the enhanced competencies that students who have experienced a double degree experience have with respect to other students, and that's attractive for that's attractive for companies. Of course, it's attractive also for students to know that, but I think the students would also be interested to know what this additional experience, what this additional competence is worth on the market. And I don't know whether that is part of the project or not, because this would be, for us, certainly a way to make these double degree experiences more attractive to students if they know that they have a reward in the end.
Of course. Yeah, I fully agree. First of all, the project T.I.M.E is not only for double degrees. It may be international mobility, so others mobilities. And I fully agree. That's why in the first output, we do it with companies. We want to know what they require from our engineers. And at the end, with the output, number 4, we want to tell them and to sell that what they are improving and why they are better engineers when they have this international experience. But I fully agree that we need companies with us, and we need to prove the value that we are adding to our engineers once they have done the experience.
Yes, we do think that this initiative may have several impacts, all kinds of impacts on all kinds of populations, I would say. The students, of course, they will know what to expect from an international mobility. The companies will know what to expect from these people, but the higher education institutions like ours will know how to prepare the students for that. And since we started the GNS, for instance, in Central Nantes, we have identified a few things that we should prepare students for. I mean, working more on job interviews. We used to do that before, but now we have more specific items. Working more on job interviews, working more on how to write various types of CVs and cover letters and things like that, and how to answer the questions from the recruiters. So it's our responsibility as institutions, it's our job, and we have plenty of ways of improving our own academic curriculum. So I think, well, maybe it's an ideal situation, but we do think that it can have an impact all the way. And of course, an impact, and this is the apex of the system, an impact on the T.I.M.E network, because actually, this is our calling. This is our vocation from the beginning. And, well, we're on the way. We get the feeling that we're on the way.
There's a question there. Yes.
Actually, I don't know the contents really of the project. Couldn't read the project, but you are talking about an international experience. You want to know the competences from coming out from an international experience. So I understand that you should target different kind of people, because it's not the same to have an international experience of 3 months, 6 months, a double degree. And in fact, here in T.I.M.E, we have been saying all the time that a double degree is much more than an international experience. So I hope, I don't know the project, but I hope that you distinguish different target groups. And adding to that, there is another program that we'll talk about later, which is REDEEM, who has been working on assessing competencies and outcomes from people involved in a double degree. So maybe you have to chat each other.
No, we did. We know REDEEM, and we have been in touch with Mirko, and we know that. And yeah. And they are focused on double degree, only double degree.
Yeah, sorry, you said before that there was nothing like this before.
No. Like
you said that before.
Yes. Like, of course, if it's the same like REDEEM, we are not going to ask for it. It's different.
No, but that's the reason I say that there must be different target groups. One thing is you have an international experience, And one thing else is to have a double degree.
No, I fully agree, but the results of what the other projects are different. Of course, they have something to do together. That's why we have been reading the proposal of Redeem. We have done together because when we began to work, we got in contact with Mirko.
Okay, my
so
question
we did
is,
that
do
job.
you have different
Yes.
target groups?
Yeah.
Have you thought in having different target groups or not? Have you thought in your project to have different target groups?
Yes, different target groups, yes. Yes, we did that, yes.
Yes, we have different target groups, but the shorter periods of time abroad, study abroad periods of time, have been very lengthily studied by institutions over the last 20 years. Mainly in the US, for instance. In the US, they have a lot of bachelor students going to Europe or to Asia for 4 months, 6 months, 1 year. And this, we take it into account. But we realize that, and this is one of the conclusions of Redeem as well, we realize that companies like degrees, and they want to see degrees on the tables when students come for a job interview. And the double degree system is more visible, I would say, than 6 months or 1 year. The benefits, the profits, the benefits from that experience are very different from 6 months to 2 years. And this is why we kind of focus on this, because actually we are proud members of the T.I.M.E network, and the T.I.M.E network has invented the double degree system, so we cling to that kind of thing. But we have all of us, we have a large majority of students who go abroad outside the double degree, and we kind of sell those students to companies as well, and they buy them very easily too. But I would say that in my experience, but we may be wrong, in our experience we've noticed that companies don't really make a difference between a student who spent 6 months in Spain, from France for instance, and 2 years. We make the difference. We can see the difference, and we kind of advertise that type of difference. But there's no hierarchy among the various mobility styles, okay, or length. Because anyway, to get a little bit upstream, trying, and this is the problem you had with Redeem, it's very difficult to identify very clearly what is the very added value of international mobility. We can say, because we all very deeply convinced that international mobility is very fruitful, otherwise we wouldn't be here. But if we are asked very specifically what is the added value, it gets more difficult. We can say, well, they have several languages, but many people have several languages without international mobility. They are adaptable. Plenty of people are adaptable anyway. They can foresee things. So plenty of people can do that. So we have to identify what is very, very, very specific. And there are very few things for the moment. We know, for instance, in the T.I.M.E network that we select students for a long-run international experience at a very young age. They are 22, 21 sometimes. So they are the pioneers. They are the conquistadores. They are the guys or the girls who really mean business. And this is a good point. And the second point, which is absolutely specific of international mobility within the T.I.M.E network, is that they seem to be able to provide several answers for the same question, which really makes the difference with people who were born in Brittany and who remain the rest of their lives in Brittany. I don't have anything against Brittany. Yes, a little bit.
I am from Brittany.
I'm from Auvergne, which is worse.
There is a last question from Behang. Three other questions. So first, Behang University.
Yes, since I have the microphone. So I think it's a very good project. I've reviewed a little bit of the literature in global engineering competences. Well, some research has been done in the area in the US and in Europe. I think one criticism is this research has been a little Eurocentric or West-centric. It is very good that you work with companies to identify what global competencies are. But do you intend to work mainly with European companies? Do you also want to work with Asian companies, for example? Because what is regarded as global in Europe may not be the same thing in the Asian context. So that's my question. Thank you.
So thank you. Thank you very much. It's true that it has been written many things about these competences. And we know Giancarlo began a few years ago, and he has very good papers and very good things writing around this. But it's true that the competences needed 10 years ago were not the competences that we need today. And they are not the competences that will be needed. And we have to face that. I agree that global competence include Asia. The problem with the project, I was talking 1 year ago with Marcelo about the project, but the problem is that in this call we cannot introduce universities out of Europe if you don't justify very, very, very well. So it was not that easy. But for sure, I fully agree that it will be very interesting, because when we speak about global competence, we are speaking about multiculturality. And from the cultural point of view, looking at those countries is a must. We have to do that. So I fully agree. Thank you for that.
One thing I'd like to add, thank you for saying so, because it's one of our concerns, and Isabelle has perfectly given the answer. I mean, it's a European project. But we don't need European projects to work together. And everyone's welcome to join us in that reflection and build. We can build outside TAVI, outside the GNS, outside time. We can build projects together involving that kind of thing. I mean, if we look ahead in time, in 20 years from now, we'll have certainly very different structures from the one we know today. We'll have European degrees, maybe. We have natural European mobility without any special agreement. That will be very, very fluid. And beyond Europe, that will be the same. We'll have, I don't know, kind of global universities. I don't know if we have to dream about that or if it has to be a nightmare, but it will be it, most certainly, we want it or not. So we should be part of that process and being ahead of time by launching that kind of initiative. I mean, of course, Asia is everywhere, and we all are in Asia. And it's absolutely natural that we have that kind of thing here with that. With Brazil, with everyone, we can work on this. Because this is our common concern. We know it or we don't know it, but this is our common concern.
And in any case, even not being in the proposal, we are making a call and we are calling all of you to participate. So we will be more than happy having you, and we can call also Chinese companies when we're saying so. That could be very, very interesting for the project, for us.
Can I? It's working? Yes? Okay. Hello, everybody. As you know, we have made some studies. One was the Redeem one. Other one was the results for the study service for the students from the T.I.M.E Alumni Survey. And in these results, we have some indications that the perceptions and the expectations are very important to this. So what I'm saying with this, it's that it's important to study what competences are changing across the years. It's important to know that if you have a student and an employer in front of you. They need to discuss what kind of differences we have since 10 years ago. But I think at the end, we are failing in one of the main aspects of this, is the promotion. And you already spoke about this. It's important to promote this because we know that the companies don't know the difference between mobility for 6 months or for 2 years. We know that a double degree, it's, I don't know, it's unknown for all the companies. And now the perception of the European Commission is to change to another kind of designation. Now it's not important double degrees, it's important to join programs, because it's not only a degree that is more easy to do. So I think we need to think about in having different strategies, not only focus on creating some specific groups with 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people, but to have a larger approach of this. Of course, I don't have the receipt. I think we are here so many people to think about in what kind of cross receipts we could have, but I believe this is a very good beginning to this, and I believe our Redeem 2 that Mirko will present in the next session, I think will be very important also to produce some results in terms of not double degrees but joint programs. But I think the future is joint programs. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
My beautiful colleague.
Hi, I just wanted to challenge maybe Frédéric a bit on what you were saying earlier about the fact that most people could speak different languages or could adapt. I don't think this is still the case. We are aware that they should, and I think that we still have to make it a reality. And it's not only about speaking different languages, it's about understanding the background of each people. We were mentioning Redeem. In the context of Redeem, we had the possibility to exchange with firms, and actually, I would like, is this, do I have actually to start from the beginning?
No.
Okay, thanks. Cool. Right. I had the opportunity to exchange with somebody from Microsoft. So this is Northern American firm based in Europe, so answering a bit what was said earlier. And I asked to this person the Redeem survey that we had, and we can identify what these assets are, okay? And he said, I need people who will be not only able to speak in English, but who will be able to develop empathy, because they would need to work in team with people they will never meet. So in order to develop empathy, you have to understand where they come from. So I basically, what I would like to challenge on are two things. The first is that we are among people here, everybody speaks 2 or 3 languages, but this is not the world we live in, including for students. There are still students that are struggling to get these assets. And firms do know what these assets are. They know what they're looking for.
Yes, thank you. Naturally, I agree 100% with you. This is maybe one of the reasons why we have maybe an unconscious tendency to privilege the double degree in our thinking about that, because it's true that the benefits are different from a 6-month mobility and a 2-year mobility, because beyond the language, we have a whole cultural background that is being built. And it's true that if you do 2 years, for instance, the first year is difficult because you have everything to learn, and the second year is easy peasy because you can teach the other guys, the newcomers, how to do, because you know it all, you know everything. And this is the beginning of some sort of a cosmopolitanism, and this is one of the major advantages of double degrees. It's true that companies don't look only for people who can speak Italian or Spanish or English, because there are so many of them. No problem. They don't even look for people who speak very well. They look for people who speak without any equivocy and who can sell anything, even if the language is not absolutely perfect. But what they look for is the engineer who can crack the good joke at the good time, who can be, who can know the culture, someone who can be a very powerful cultural go-between, a good ambassador between several cultures. And this, I guess, goes along with what you were saying. We don't train only good speakers of foreign languages. We train good operators in foreign cultures that are no longer foreign. And this is our 40. We can do that in 2 years.
Yes, so I'm also not familiar with the project, so I apologize in advance if I'm saying stupid or even worse, irrelevant things. But I think we should not, if the question which is being asked is about the added value, I think we should not sort of get tired of confirming the obvious. And I think the part of the obvious is here that I think it's not only a matter of companies. Companies, for instance, in Italy, they will, as far as I can understand our situation, my country, they will not be looking into any detail of this. And as you said, they will not care if we call it double degree or joint program, which is sometimes difficult also for ourselves to understand, or what the European Commission thinks about it. But certainly, it will be just simply a plus, okay? It's not under discussion. It is just a plus. And so we should confirm this, although it is obvious. Now, I think the most important thing is the political value of this thing. It's not a technical value. We are in a Europe which is building barriers inside our Europe. So our colleague from China is very right, you know, we have to look much further beyond our borders. But I think we should start seriously doing that once we have solved our problems at home. And at home we have so many barriers that the obvious added value of this thing, however we call it or we detail it from technical point of view, is that we grow generation which will fight against those barriers because they will find them unnatural, you know, just illogical. And it's important that we have somebody to fight against those, because there's quite many people in different countries, as we know, which are building these walls, not fighting against them. So that's my point.
No, thank you. I agree that companies, what was very interesting experience for me when I went to present the project to the companies, to tell them if they wanted to join to the project, it's true that maybe they are not interested if it's 6 months, 1 year, or double degree or whatever, but they are worried about the competences of the engineers. Because they say that once they recruit the engineers, they have to give training on competence that they lack of them. And that's why they signed the project, and they said, we are very, very interested on participating in the project, because we feel that today other competences, it's true that maybe they are not interested on that, but they see or they feel that there is a lack of competences that they want engineers to improve, because otherwise they have to do that. They win. It's a win-win. Yeah, but it's true. Yeah.
Maybe what I propose, because we are running out of time, there is a coffee break right now. I propose to go on with this very interesting discussion during the coffee break. But before that, there are a few instructions that Marcelo would like to give.
Well, just 2 housekeeping questions. The restrooms are located behind the stage, so female to your right, male to your left, and it's a much shorter walk than the other ones outside the auditorium. And for the coffee break, please, to the left, we're going to serve at the garden. Thank you. Oh, yes, I'm going to ask them to get the print. Yes, very good. They're going to the room upstairs, straight on.
C'est-à-dire comment moi je le... Ah, tu l'as? Parce que d'après la question, comment est-ce que j'ai préparé? Je suis très à l'aise de le mener ici, parce que ici, c'est pas pour moi, première question que je demanderais aux gens, c'est ce qu'on entend par African education. Donc là, moi, je présente que j'ai fait 3 jours. Donc, le Maghreb, ici, ça arrive de la participation. Donc, dans ce qui arrive, je pensais à un peu alors, à partir de là, moi, je veux dire que selon les études de développement, il y a deux possibles activités de renforcement des capacités. C'est-à-dire que soit on travaille des institutions, soit on travaille en partnership, comme on fait. Après ça, moi, j'ai présenté un peu les projets en développement qu'on a fait et les principes que j'ai utilisés. Ensuite de ça, quand les partnerships sont... Et là, en même temps, là, je vais le relancer en disant, qu'est-ce que vous avez comme partnership? Moi, c'était pas pour acheter des universités à terre. Je suis encore convaincue. En tout cas, on peut faire des doubles diplômes, mais nous, on en fait, et je les inviterai pas à terre. Okay, c'est mon point de vue. Ça un côté ou l'autre, ça se défend. C'est comme ça. Okay. Non. Ils vont venir chez vous, mais les nôtres vont pas aller là-bas. C'est ça. C'est pour ça que je dis, on peut, pour moi, ça s'inscrit, non pas, ça s'inscrit dans une collaboration. Moi, c'est ça que j'avais préparé. Qu'est-ce qu'on entend par African ISP? Ensuite, bon, alors moi, je dis, ben là, on va voir ce que les gens vont dire. Alors, on peut vraiment les regrouper en 3 catégories. Oui. Une catégorie qui est développée comme nous, qui est le positif. Bon, ensuite de ça, il y a 2 autres niveaux. Il y a le Maghreb qui se situe dans un niveau intermédiaire. Ouais. Et il y a vraiment tout ce qui est la région subsaharienne qui est vraiment plus développée. Puis encore là, les pays anglophones sont plus développés que les pays francophones à cause de leurs ressources naturelles qui sont mieux utilisées. Ensuite de ça, selon le niveau de développement, ben là, on peut avoir 2 niveaux d'intervention. C'est-à-dire qu'avec notre approche Banque mondiale, on les aide à restructurer des programmes, à restructurer là, je vais donner des exemples de projets, ou encore faire des partnerships avec des institutions existantes. Et ça, ben là, tout le monde en a. Oui, voilà. On pourrait aller un peu comme ça. Ben, les deux, non, ce que je veux dire, on va avoir une discussion de donner les deux côtés. C'est ça. Ensuite de ça, ben là, je présente les projets qu'on a. Et après ça, ben, selon, alors, il y a une grosse discussion avec les gens ici. Là, donc, je sais pas si c'est ici. Donc, en fait, ce qu'on va faire, c'est qu'on va dans une petite salle. Chaque institution qui vont présenter leur expertise, en fait, leur expérience avec l'Afrique. Et ensuite, on va organiser ce qu'on appelle sur les boards. OK, donc, on a 3 autres à part de moi qui présentent. Oui. OK, donc moi, ben, alors, à ce moment-là, je vais présenter surtout sur l'aspect développement. Oui. OK, ben, c'est ça que j'avais en tête. Oui. Mais c'est pour ça que j'ai dit, quand j'ai vu le titre, je me suis dit, tu veux que ça monte? Non, non, non. OK, bon, mais ça me va. Non, non, mais ça, c'est quand même la question de, tu vois, dans la conversation, ouais. Parce que tout le temps, mais qu'est-ce que vous voyez comme, ouais, dans tout le temps? C'est la poser. Ben, OK, mais moi, dans quel ordre que je pense? Alors, dans l'ordre, attends que je regarde, dans l'ordre que j'ai mis pour le programme, et j'ai prévu en fait 15 minutes par participant. Okay. Bon, moi, que je fasse n'importe où, tout ce qui a été dit, je veux dire, ben, comme on a vu, il y a 3 niveaux. Oui. Nous, on intervient aux deux. Puis, tu sais, je veux dire, pour que les gens, un peu en tête, là, bon, je veux dire, nous, on intervient dans les deux. Oui. Mais ici, ce qu'on m'a demandé de présenter, c'est davantage l'axe vraiment nord-sud, où on aide à mettre des institutions en place, des programmes en place. Ouais. Et un peu, qu'est-ce que ça prend comme background, qu'est-ce que ça prend, les différentes approches, méthodologies et tout ça. Je vais donner différents exemples. Mais quand tu réponds à ce type de projet-là, tu réponds en tant que Polytech Montréal, oui. Tu réponds avec, tu répondras avec d'autres partenaires. Ben, pour l'instant, c'est pas avec d'autres partenaires, mais ça pourrait être. Moi, ça m'intéresserait en fait. Oui. Si on pouvait envisager. Sauf que c'est un peu comme là, qui vont pas avec d'autres parce que le financement et donc, bon, oui. Banque mondiale pourrait aller à deux, sauf que il pourrait dire on refuse des partenariats. Parfois, ça va. La Banque mondiale peut dire les bids ne peuvent pas être faits en partenariat ou ne peuvent pas être faits en partenariat. Bon, ça n'empêche pas que tu pourrais aller chercher des consultants ou d'autres professeurs. Après, là, on pourrait discuter comment. Mais moi, je veux qu'ils comprennent comment ça se passe et les enjeux qu'il y a de relier à ça. Là. Mais non, mais ça m'intéresse. Moi, ça m'intéresserait. Ça m'intéresserait bien, mais après, voilà, ce que je voudrais, c'est aller plus loin dans ça. Enfin, je suis contente de savoir que. Je pense que c'est que, en gros, les Français sont pratiquement partis. Parce que nous, on pense que les Français sont là. Donc, c'est d'après ça, peut-être de travailler ensemble avec les institutions. Et non pas. Les Français ou francophones? Les Belges, par exemple, c'est plutôt français. Parce que les Français, de faire
Som. 1, 2, teste, som. Teste, som. 1, 2.
A fonte. Não tá ligada?
Não, a fonte deixa aqui, o velho. Ligou então.
Agora o outro.
Troca a fonte do outro.
Som. 1, 2.
Tá, isso aqui, ó. Já. De um deu.
Aí você troca do outro lado do branco. Deixa o branco lá no.
O branco?
É. Como pode ser esse?
O vermelho?
É.
Ou esse?
Não, o que tem.
Som.
Ah, tá. Então vai, vê aí.
Oi?
É o Belo? Som, 1, 2, não. Som, 1, 2, teste, som. Esse é o microfone 3, tá? Relaxa. Ah, pode ser.
Som, ei! Que nem aquela vez aqui, a gente foi no outro prédio, lá se lascou. Ficou o dia inteiro tentando arrumar um som, um microfone, nada, e vai daqui, vai daí. Tava configurado. Agora vai. Som. Teste, som, 1, 2. Som.
Agora já é.
Som.
Quantos na mesa? Quantos na mesa? 3.
Som. Som, 1, 2. Teste.
3 na mesa?
Som, 1, 2. Teste. Som. Som, 1, 2. Som. 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 Som, 1, 2. Teste. Som.
Pega mais água aí pra mim. Aqui. Água, copinho.
Cadê aqueles copinhos ali? É lixo?
L'asciutto Donatello, l'asciutto, ma Donatello la ricetta. Ma da voi è diverso. Vice vuol dire numero 2. Donatello è numero 2, il resto. Alla ricetta, sì, me lo ricordo, noi c'eravamo un piccolo maciso. Dunque, di STEM portacci su, ma è tutto? No, niente, c'è tutto. Quindi non devo prenderli a parte. Quindi quella è la ragione per cui...
Attraverso la presentazione me lo beccato. Sì, lei ci tiene particolarmente. Questo fa parte anche della qualità.
È la mia directory questa sì. Scusa? Non lo so, ma mi ha colpito, cioè, ero lì, mi sono girato e sono rigirato 140 mega già lì sotto, quindi hanno fatto del lavoro quelli che hanno cambiato queste robe, canali.
E quindi è proprio lei
che segue
tutta la parte dei siti, università, il tecnico sì, ce l'ha in capo lei.
Arrivo di nota, no? Credo che stia
Dear colleagues, we are about to restart. Okay, so we're going to open the next session, which is about the T.I.M.E Association in European projects. Actually, we already heard about the TAVI project, so now in fact, Torsten will, Mirko will talk to us about the REDEEM project, but before that, I would like to give the microphone to Torsten, who has a small announcement to make.
Yes, we have got a workshop this afternoon, which is called Digital Education. And those of you who thought that there would be a free lunch if you're going to the digital education, you are wrong. So before you're leaving for lunch, there's a bunch of lunch work to do. For those of you who have selected digital education, now, so if you want to drop out of the digital education, you do not have to get this here. But I would encourage you to take this here based upon the fact that I want to have, in the workshop, I want to have discussion and not presentation by me. So there are a few slides. If you could glance through them, identify your questions, that would be great. Okay? So before you're leaving for lunch, I'll put it out here. Okay? And there's 30 of you who should be part at the maximum. Thanks. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. Okay, so now I invite Mirko Varano from KTH to come and present the REDEEM project. And we are going to go to the first row so that we can see.
Can I start? Can I start? Yes. Okay, so I will present REDEEM 2, but with a short introduction a bit about REDEEM 1. And I have to say that we have actually talked to Isabel and Frederic. So there was confusion before, but we are well aware of what we are going to do. And we had a Skype meeting after the first version of TAVI was, it doesn't work.
It does work, but it has to be closer.
After the first version of TAVI was proposed, because it was very similar to what we were doing in REDEEM, and we came to an agreement, so now it's quite different and quite clear what we have done before and what we are going to do now. Just to simplify, we can say that TAVI is more focusing, as you heard, on the profile and competencies of engineering students. We are focusing more on the structures of double degrees. So REDEEM 1 was presented here extensively in the past General Assembly by Rui, I think. But here I have a few slides for those who were not here, for those who were not listening. This is why we went for this project. We realized that we all have been working with double degrees since the early 90s, but there were some aspects to cover. For example, we realized that double degrees were traditionally developed of the providers only. So the universities were developing joint programs and double degrees because they had a best friend somewhere else and they thought they had two similar programs in place. Often there was no feedback from the students, so the customers, what were their needs and expectations. Often they were not related with the needs of the employers, what were the profiles they were looking for, or they would have been looking for in 2, 3, 4 years. We all promoted double degrees and joint programs, but without actually knowing why, what we could promise to the students. So the students could often not make an informed decision of why going for a joint program, why going for a short mobility, why staying at home, simply. So there was no clear picture on the impact, and that's what we focused on REDEEM. There were many studies, but we realized that there was no study that was actually fitting our needs. So there were many studies focusing on other areas, while we are technical universities, so we wanted to have a study specifically for technical universities. Some studies were focusing on one type of double degree, the T.I.M.E, cluster, the Erasmus Mundus, and so on, but not on all of them together. Some impact studies were actually published on mobility. There's one from the European Commission, but that's like credit mobility, short-term mobility. Most of them were not comparative. Most of them were not combining qualitative and quantitative analysis. And they were not bringing together all the stakeholders. And finally, there was no final product. We wanted to have some guidelines that could be used and disseminated so that other universities could have actually made active use of that. So we did all that, or at least most of it, in these 5 actions. So we had, in REDEEM 1, we had 7 universities from 6 countries. So this is already a difference between REDEEM 1 and 2. This was a more limited study, because we could say it was a pilot. 7 partners in 6 countries, and we focused on the alumni of these 7 universities. We carried out a quantitative analysis. We got a response from 1,600 double degree alumni, and we sent out a questionnaire focusing on the hard facts, where they are living, how much they are earning, and so much. The motivations, why a student decides to take a joint program or double degree, and the impact, what's their perception on what they actually got from the experience. After that, we carried out a qualitative analysis, it's wrong, by carrying out around 140 interviews or focus groups with all the stakeholders, the developers of joint programs, the alumni, current students, and employers, to ask and go more in depth in the reasons why we have double degrees. From all these, we developed guidelines that are available, a generic checklist for developers with recommendations, and finally we had a repository of best practices in joint programs with the involvement of companies. This is an example of what we did. So you were talking about motivations and competencies. REDEEM is our alumni from the 7 universities. Control group is students from these universities who had a mobility experience, but shorter. So you can see here that was on a scale from 1 to 5. We asked them, what was your motivation to enroll in a double degree, or what was your motivation to enroll in a shorter mobility? You can see the difference. Here, living in a different country during my studies was the highest ranked, which means that the mobility component is still the most important in joint programs. So maybe we have to work on that, because that's not the point with double degrees and joint programs. We have to stress more the other aspects that were mentioned before. We don't want to change the motivation of the students, but perhaps they are not aware of the other benefits, and in this way we might recruit maybe the wrong students to the wrong product. And so on. What was interesting is that the least interesting aspect for them was the perspective of getting better paid than students who did not have a double degree. We can see that it's also what they perceived after the double degree program. They perceived they were not earning more, but they actually do. So it's also a matter of communication when we present double degree programs. It shouldn't be the main motivation, of course, but it's good to know. quantitative analysis still, these are the skills gained. This is the perception of the students. We asked them after they graduated, what do you think that the double degree experience gave you? And here, what was interesting is that most of the students mentioned aspects that are related with the experience and with personal development, and not with the technical skills. So this is something for T.I.M.E to also analyze. We think it's good. The students go for the experience and not just to get a better course in mechanical engineering. We also have to stress this aspect, maybe, that this combination of 2 degrees sometimes brings them some extras also in terms of technical skills. The guidelines, it was an attempt to rationalize all these findings, and it's something that is available and you can use. It's structured in 4 main chapters: the organizational aspect, how you set up a joint program, taking into account everything you should take into account. We didn't give, there are some recommendations, but we are aware that we cannot create a standard that can fit all. So, structure and content, employability and personal development, and recruitment strategy and marketing. It's a very extensive document that you can check, it's online. Another finding was that on a scale from 1 to 5, we asked our double degree alumni, were you satisfied about the program? And we can see that it's very stable over the years. We covered the past 10 years, so we contacted alumni from 10 years ago up to last year. It's very stable, the satisfaction level, and what is interesting is that students with a single degree and just a mobility experience were significantly less satisfied. So we can see that there was actually an impact. There is an impact in having a double degree. In the interviews, we realized that the least interesting aspect for them to have a double degree was the double degree. They didn't care the second piece of paper. They said it never helped them and it was relevant. But the experience and everything else attached to this was the relevant point. The general conclusion about Redeem 1 were that double degrees were highly appreciated by the students. 98% of them would recommend it to some other student, I think. 50% of the double degree students that responded are working abroad, so that was one of the other outcomes. We know that half of them stay abroad or they move to a third country. They are more satisfied, as I said. They earn more. And then we realized that there are 2 main categories of programs. The ones looking for compatibility, which is you look for a program in another university that is as similar as possible to your home program, and the complementary. Choosing a program in the same field that offers specializations that you cannot offer. So you extend your academic offer without any costs. That's the other aspect, and maybe we should look more into that. The impact analysis is often lacking, meaning that there are very few studies. We don't know what happens to our alumni, specifically this group of alumni, the double degree alumni. They are surveyed together with all the other ones, but we cannot really measure the impact this way. There are still many misconceptions in place, especially from the side of the companies. It was mentioned that there are very successful initiatives within T.I.M.E, and companies show up, but I suspect that these are companies who are already aware of double degrees. We contacted our main industrial partners, who typically recruit our students, in Sweden, Scania and Ericsson and so on. The person we interviewed had no idea about what double degrees or joint programs were, and they said that what is relevant for them is the reputation of the degree of the local national university. So they didn't even care about the fact that the student had a second degree in a second university. They praised the fact that the student is probably more open-minded, has been living abroad and is more independent and so on. But they didn't see the difference between a 1-year experience or a double degree. And the nature of the program must be clear when designing and when recruiting. I won't comment about this, but it was one of the results. Better communication is needed towards all the target groups, because there's a mismatch between expectations and impact and what companies are looking for. We interviewed companies after they told us that they don't care about double degrees, basically, in all the countries. We asked them, what's the profile of the student, the ideal student you would like to recruit? And what they mentioned is exactly the list of skills that the student mentioned as an impact for their own experience. So companies are looking for double degrees without knowing that they are looking for double degrees students. There should be a focused marketing for double degree exchange. They claim that They shouldn't be addressed together with all the other exchange students because the experience is different and we have to be clear from the beginning about that. They need a specific support and services. Usually they are integrated with exchange students, but they have completely different needs. Sometimes they are integrated with the local students, but of course they don't know the regulations, they don't know the language, they don't know the procedures, so they have to be addressed as a specific group. As I said, companies seek for double degree profiles. And both students and employers favor an active involvement of companies. And this is why we decided to go on with REDEEM 2. Now we have the general picture of what a joint program graduate is. We didn't make any comparative study to see if there are differences, national differences and so on. And we also heard that companies have to be more involved, and this came from the students, from the alumni, from the developers, and from the companies themselves. The companies said that if they have to be involved in this and appreciate the value of this, they want to be involved in designing this program, not just at the end with a master thesis that the university has decided about, or some non-mandatory internship with no credits attached, and so on. So the next step would be to implement all these to create better and more effective joint programs, and that's why we went to REDEEM 2. With REDEEM 1, we have a good set of results and data, but they have to be further exploited. We need new evidence and further evidence to promote the joint programs among the students, and we need for more comparable data. As I said, we have now the general picture of what a double degree graduate is in these 7 countries. Now we want to go beyond and have this survey. That's why we have T.I.M.E as an associate partner, Cluster as an associate partner, and then we will send it to all our partner universities. We want to see if there is a correlation with country, level of satisfaction, employability, salary, and so on. Field of study, of course, a joint program in architecture is very different than a joint program in aerospace engineering. Type of program, this will be very sensitive, but we want to know what's the difference. The T.I.M.E double degrees with the 1-year extension, or the cluster dual masters with a 1+1 year, EIT master program, and so on. We also want to make a comparison among these. And socio-economic background, this was one of the criticisms we got when we presented the results of REDEEM 1. They said that we should also look into the background of the students to see if there is a correlation in the performance, satisfaction, and so on. Now we will focus only on the most recent graduates because we think that this is what, it was good to look into the past 10 years to see the trends, but now we have to see what's happening now and what are the needs of the companies and expectations of the students, looking at the recent graduates, very recent graduates. We need better information communication towards companies, we know that, but now we will evaluate how we can do this, how we can communicate better the content and the value of the product. We need to reform the programs, we know that, but how? And we need to involve companies, we know that, but we have now to study how. And one of the results, expected results of the REDEEM 2 is to actually create new joint programs using all this information and recommendations by involving companies from the very beginning. This will be very challenging, but we promised to do it, so now we have to do it. Unfortunately. Platform for the European University Initiative. Joint programs will be a very important aspect of the new initiative of the Commission. So the pilot call will be launched next month, and I think that joint programs will be a core of this initiative. Okay, these are the partners. It was launched as a cluster. You know, cluster is a sister organization, smaller, but there are overlappings. You can see that more than half of the partners are also T.I.M.E partners, so it's hard to say sometimes if it's a cluster project, a T.I.M.E project. So now we have both organizations involved as associate. About the definition, in REDEEM 1 we talked about double degrees. Now we only talk about joint programs, so we don't care about the output, what's the name of the degree that the students get, because we think that's the least interesting, and it was confirmed both by companies and students. So we talk about joint programs. This is the definition we used. All the forms of academic cooperation at any educational level leading to deliverance of a program with embedded mobility offered jointly by at least 2 higher education institutions located in 2 different countries. So it's everything. And we don't want to discriminate. We cover all these initiatives. This comes not because we are smarter than the others. This comes from a decision of the ministers of the Bologna process already in 2015, when joint programs were high on the agenda finally. They decided that we should only talk about joint programs, regardless of the degrees that will be delivered. So we talk about joint programs, and then we talk about joint degree if it's one piece of paper signed by 2 or more rectors, or multiple degrees, including double degrees if it's different the documents that are awarded to the students. So now we will talk about joint programs only. 2 years later, a few months ago, or no, last year, in Paris, they met again, the ministers, and you can see there were 2 sentences addressing joint programs, so it means it's very high on the agenda still. They want to see more joint programs, and they want us to use the European approach for quality assurance in joint programs. I don't know if you heard of that, but it's a new initiative, and it's going to, well, everybody will have to address it because you will have to deal with it in some way. This means that there is a register of accrediting agencies that are entitled to accredit a joint program in one country, and the other country is supposed to accept this. This was accepted by the ministers of each country of the Bologna process, which means that they have to be consequent and make it possible in their home country. We will see how it works. Now it's going very slowly, but we want to address these in our project also. So all the new programs we will create will have to deal with this in some way. Here is the main objective of REDEEM 2. I already mentioned most of it, so I'm not going through it. This is the structure. We will carry out a state-of-the-art report, and this is the perspective of the universities. Where they stand, what is their perspective on joint programs. There will be a questionnaire that will be sent out, and this is where you will be involved. Gwenelle will send it out, this questionnaire, and our main scope is to see how universities are dealing with joint programs. We will ask about the hard facts, how many joint programs are you offering, what's your favorite, or what's the most common structure, and so on. But then we will also ask about the motivations. Why do you start new joint programs? What are your expectations institutionally? And then we will ask about the impact. What you perceive as a benefit after you have set up new joint programs. We will create a repository of best practices in joint programs with the participation of companies. We will carry out again a comparative a survey, quantitative survey, so that we can go for a comparative statistical and qualitative analysis on expectations, impact, and employability of the existing joint programs. This will be based on the feedback of alumni, and again, here you will receive a questionnaire that you should send to all your alumni. Now we will have some more problems with the GDPR and so on, but we will try to make it possible. And as I said, the difference is that now we will target the recent graduates only. We want to cover all the possible countries, even beyond Europe. The funding is European for European universities, but we want to cover all the countries that are active in joint programs. These are the main 2 differences. And we want to have more comparable data so that we can see trends at regional level and so on, or program level, field level, and so on. We want to come up with promote tools so that we can what they can expect from joint programs and why they should go. The aim is not our students, is to recruit the right students and the best students. So we want to have a set of information so that we can actually inform them about this. The framework, we want to create a framework. We had, as I said, a set of guidelines and so on, but now we want to have a more precise one that goes more in the direction of how to involve companies in the whole process. And the whole process means from when you design the curriculum, or even before, when you design the expected profile of the graduates, when you decide what are the learning outcomes that you want to have so that they match the needs of those who will actually hire the students. We want to have a set of innovative pilot joint programs, as I said, so throughout the duration of the program we hope that we will be able to create some new program with the involvement of the companies. Maybe it's a bit too ambitious because we start now and It takes time to create it, accredit it, and launch it, recruit the students, and then start running the program. So maybe this will be measured only after we complete the 3-year project. The impact analysis is what we are hoping to do, but I think it's a bit too ambitious. We will do it anyway, but maybe beyond the scope of the project. And then we would like to create a permanent network that is nothing that will compete with T.I.M.E or cluster. It's just an informal network of not universities, but programs, joint programs that involve companies in an active way so that they can keep networking and brainstorming on how to do this better. These are very detailed descriptions of all the different work packages, and I'm not going through this, but I put them there so that when Gwenelle distributes the presentation, if you're interested, you can look more into detail on what we are doing. Each work package is subdivided in many activities, so you can look into that. You have the time frame when this is happening. And finally, this is how T.I.M.E partners who are not directly involved in the project can be involved. The first one, we are working on that now. We had the kickoff meeting 2 weeks ago, and many people here were in the kickoff meeting. We are now working on this questionnaire for the universities, the hard facts, motivations to develop joint programs, perceived impact on joint programs, and the barriers that universities encounter in creating new joint programs. We want to have this picture. It won't be very long. It will be some 20 questions, so I hope we will have time to go through that. You will receive it in November, and you are free to send it forward to all your partners with which you have joint programs and who are not involved in cluster or T.I.M.E. Then we will go for the Alumni Survey that will be coordinated again by IST, by Rui's team. And this will be another question, as I said, to be sent to the graduates from joint programs from the past 3 years. This will be more or less launched in January, February. We have the meeting in January, so maybe February. We will have 2 open events, a midterm event in Prague. We have to decide about the date, but you will all be invited there, and that's where we will present the results of the first 2 surveys. After that, we will work actively in creating the joint programs based on these findings, and we will finally have a final conference and event in Stockholm, but that will be in 3 years. So we will also, I guess we will also present the preliminary results at the next T.I.M.E General Assemblies. And then we will need you for exploit the results, of course, because if what we do will be relevant and significant, we hope that many more universities than the 9 involved here will actually use the results. And these are the contacts. It's myself, and Torkel is also involved in the project, so you can write if you have more questions. This is the website of the first phase of the project. We haven't decided if we will use the same or if we will have a second one, but I think we will keep using this one. So there you find already all the findings about the first phase of the project. Was I quick enough? And if you have questions, please.
Thank you, Mirko. When you're the joint project that you're looking at, do you already have those, or are you out searching for more joint projects from the members here?
Well, when it comes to the surveys, we are looking at existing joint programs. When it comes to the second phase, when we want to create new joint programs with the participation of companies using the results of the first phase, then we are hoping for partners to create new joint programs according to these guidelines, but we understand it's difficult. We will also look into existing joint programs that need to be reformed, or with a coordinator who thinks that this is valuable and they might look into it and involve companies and take into consideration these recommendations, but the program will remain more or less the same with the same partners. It's not, we don't want to tell people what to do. in this
No,
sense.
I do understand that, but it was just a question of it. But as such, I mean, the next call is soon coming up for Erasmus Mundus and joint programs of different kinds, so that perhaps there might be someone here who would like to contact you and get some of your recommendations and pull those into their proposals. Okay. Then the second question: do you have any of the joint programs that you're looking at? Are they online?
No, we haven't looked into that aspect at all.
You haven't looked upon it, or have you specifically excluded it? Or? No,
it didn't come up. And nobody brought it up as one of the priorities when it comes to joint programs, or one of the existing features in the existing joint programs.
Well, now someone has brought it up,
yes.
So I hope that it will be part of the... okay.
We have to include that, yes.
Yes, thank you. Mm.
And I mean, we don't have a set of joint programs we are looking at. Each partner will be free to pick one and say, we will use this as a guinea pig or as a pilot. In KTH, we know already there's a person who is going to apply for Erasmus Mundus joint master degree, and she already agreed in moving in parallel with this. So she will implement the findings and the guidelines in her proposal. So that's the perfect situation.
I'd like to make a comment about the participation of companies in these joint programs. I mean, I would guess that all of our institutions have advisory boards in which they do ask opinion of companies about the program and what competencies should be developed and so forth. And I think this is good. I mean, this definitely. I wouldn't go as far as asking the companies to tailor the programs, because on the one hand, we know that companies' opinion can be very fluctuating. And on the other hand, in the end, the educational institutions are responsible for the degrees that they deliver, not the companies.
Yes, so the point was not that the company should own the program. They should be more involved, and they claim that they would have liked to be more involved in the formal parts of the process. We heard from many students, for example, we noticed that there's a difference between students from Northern Europe and Southern Europe, the motivations why students were taking joint programs. For students from Southern Europe, after the crisis, joint programs were used to open the doors towards a new labor market. They were going to a destination specifically with the idea of getting a job there. But what they claimed they were missing was that they got the local degree, which was really appreciated by the companies, but they had no contacts with any company representative before the graduation. And then they had no idea on the local culture of the labor market, how you write a CV that suits that kind of mentality, so they said we would have liked to have companies more involved in our program so that the transition would have been easier. While students from Northern Europe, they pick these kind of programs typically, more for personal development reasons, with the idea that they will go back and work in their own country. So that's also something we have to take into consideration.
Okay, I've got... Yes, it works. Related to the companies, did you get any interest from the companies or any suggestions to create master-level programs in a blended environment, in the sense that the students would be actually working during their 2-year period, that they would be engaged by the company and doing part-time work and part-time studies? Was that anything that the companies mentioned or anything like that?
No, I don't think this came up from any of the interviews or focus groups that were organized at the 7 universities. At least I haven't read any about that in any report from a university. So companies didn't suggest that, and the developers at universities didn't see that as something valuable. So maybe we can suggest it.
Yes. Okay. Because, I mean, if the companies are saying, as all the surveys, that they do not get the competencies and that they have to spend a few years when the students come in, if they have to spend a lot of time to educate the students, why would they not then take them in already at an early start, pay half a salary, for example, for the students, testing them during 2 years and knowing if they would like to employ them?
We can test that, having as a suggestion for in our guidelines as an option. Or maybe we can address the question directly to the companies we will talk to when we have the interviews, the qualitative analysis. Because they were very conservative in their approach, I have to say. All they said is that we like the national degree, we know the reputation of the national university, so it doesn't matter where the student comes from. If they have your degree, we know they're good. And then they said we want to be more involved, but they also had a very conservative approach. Like, we would like to negotiate from the beginning the master thesis that we will offer to the students and so on. And then it's completely separated from the recruitment process.
Well, and then they want the students to be ready in 3 months, because in 6 months they want another profile.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the risk with the companies, we noticed, that they have some problems that need to be solved here and now. So maybe in that sense it's good that universities keep the ownership of the contents, but consulting the companies is also maybe good, so that maybe there's something that we are not aware of. But it has to be more on a long-term perspective, not a problem they have now, because if we design a program now, when we have the first graduates in 3 years, the problem might be gone or different. So.
Well, thank you very much. Cool.
Thank you.
Now, if there so no more questions for this session, I propose to suspend the meeting now, and since we are a little bit ahead of time, I would propose to resume this afternoon a quarter hour earlier, so that if we need some more time for any of the debates this afternoon, we can have it, or otherwise we just finished a little earlier. So my suggestion is that we come back here after lunch at 1:30 instead of 1:45.
Just two housekeeping points to you. We're going to have the group photograph today at 1:45 p.m. It's going to be taken outside. There'll be a surprise for the way the photograph will be shot. And hope you like it. And I have the lunch tickets with me, so don't leave the auditorium to the restaurant without your ticket, right? Thank you very much.
Yeah, just a precision, if we resume a quarter hour earlier, then the group photograph would need to take place a quarter hour earlier at 1:30.
Perfect. Okay, 1:30 here.
Le document de Torsten, yes.
Ah, d'accord.
tänker jag man ska komma till mig.
Ese de Líbane.
Well, I don't understand this because I was not the process and I said the process.
Okay? Yes, I think it is. I thought it was just for one of the sessions. Okay, I'm going to ask.